Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Peyton. Welcome to my channel. I am the well-seasoned traveler. I am a hotel consultant, a slow traveler, and a conference organizer. So thank you for joining me. This is day 2 of my 30 in 30 YouTube challenge. I'm posting 30 videos in 30 days. This is day 2, so let's get into it. Today I want to talk a little bit about my residency journey, how I got my temporary residency in Mexico, and how you can get your temporary residency in Mexico as well. Mexico is an incredible country in terms of travel. First of all, they offer a 180-day visa, not guaranteed, but they do offer a 180-day visa, which means you can go to Mexico for 6 months and live there, which is what I did, and save a ton of money because it's significantly cheaper. Assuming you are skipping Mexico City, it is significantly cheaper to live in Mexico than it is to live in the US. I say that with some caveats that I'll come back to later, one of them being the exchange rate. But like I said, Mexico is super easy to get, easy but time consuming to get residency. They offer the 180-day visa for anyone. They also have something called economic solvency, which they require for you to apply for a temporary residency, a 1-year temporary residency, or a permanent residency. So economic solvency in Mexico is 300 times the Mexican minimum wage, daily minimum wage. Most places use daily minimum wage. Some places you'll see use monthly minimum wage, but most places use a daily minimum wage. And the daily minimum wage for 2024 in Mexico is 248 pesos 93 cents. Right? So you'll multiply 248 pesos times 300, which gives us 74,679 pesos, which right now, based on the exchange rate that I saw yesterday, which is at 16.98 pesos to the dollar, that puts your economic solvency requirement at $4,427.27. It's a lot of money for economic solvency right now. If you are going for permanent residency, most of the time Mexico only offers permanent residency if you can prove that you have Social Security, investments, something else, generally government, linked to the government, that shows that you are making enough money. That's the only way. They generally won't give permanent residency, even if you're making way above the 300 times the Mexican minimum wage. They tend not to give permanent residency right away unless you are getting money from Social Security, you're at that retirement age, or you're getting a ton of money from your investments. Mexico also has, I believe they have a golden visa where you can purchase land or purchase a business or something along those lines. That is way out of my financial stratosphere. I want to say it was somewhere in the $200,000 range for Mexico, 189, I'm thinking about 2023 numbers, so 189, $200,000 required to buy your way into residency in Mexico. So for me, how did I get to Mexico? How did this all come about? Like other people in COVID, when COVID hit, I was working in hotels, so I was one of the very first people to get laid off during COVID in my hotel. I was like, I'm not trying to die here, y'all. You can send me home. And they were like, okay, we'll see you later. Or they thought they would see me later. I pretty much knew that COVID was going to be here for a while. So I left my job in 2020 and was super lucky and able to get unemployment and also what I call the Bernie bucks, that extra money that we got. I was able to live on that, save that. And in 2021, my lease was up. We had about 6 months left of the unemployment money. And so I didn't know what to do and decided I had already traveled, luckily had traveled prior, saw that people were traveling and was like, oh, why don't I just go someplace? I chose Mexico because of proximity to the US. I thought, well, if I get a job, I'm in Mexico, I can just fly back. It'll be super easy, no fuss, no muss, right? So I started in Mexico. I also realized at that time the exchange rate was about 20 pesos to a dollar. Beautiful. It was a golden era. In Mexico, we were spending money left and right. Amazing exchange rate. So I was able to live there and stay there. I stayed there for 6 months, and I traveled around, and I was able to live on the unemployment money that I was getting, and still saving some money at the same time, thinking, well, when I go back, I'm going to need to rent an apartment and do all these things, thinking that I was going to go back and come back and live. Unfortunately, or fortunately actually for me, I fell in love with Mexico. I visited a number of cities: Merida, Playa del Carmen, Veracruz, Puebla, Guadalajara, Oaxaca I loved. So I was able to go around to a bunch of different places and see what life was like in different parts of Mexico, and I just fell in love. How can you not fall in love with tacos? I mean, come on, you guys. Tacos every day, tacos every day. So I was really lucky. I decided during that time, like, all right, this is it. The US is the Titanic, is what I call it. It is a sinking, massive ship that is pulling itself down with its own weight. And I realized it was time for me to get back off the Titanic. I had done it before, I could do it again. So I decided that when I came back to the US, when my 180 days in Mexico was up, I decided to come back to the US, figure out how I could get back out. But I also had a list of places. Even though Mexico was in the back of my mind, I didn't want to decide. I had a short list of places that fit my criteria, that I wanted to see before I made my final decision of where I was going to expat to. So in 2022, I put that into action. I started working as a hotel contractor, which is what I'm still doing now. It is amazing. I'll do another video on hotel contracting. I highly recommend it. As you can see behind me, I'm currently in a hotel. I live in a hotel. I work in a hotel. I pay no rent. I pay nothing for food. The hotel reimburses me for food, and I get paid to work. So this really works out for me, particularly paying no rent, which means I'm able to save a couple $1,000s every month by living in a hotel. A smart person, if I were a smarter woman than I am, a smart person would hotel contract and house sit, so you would never have to. You can do a couple of years of not paying rent and just banking money. I'm not a massive fan of the house sit. I love a house sit. I don't like the pet sit, unless it's cats. I don't like being on a dog schedule. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. So I came back to the States. I started hotel contracting. I'm really lucky. I have a mom who still is alive, thankfully, and has a home, that when I am in between hotel jobs, I go and stay with her. So that is another way I'm able to not have to pay rent. So I haven't paid rent since 2021. It's now 2024. It's pretty good. So 2022, I went to Ecuador and Colombia. Those were the other two countries on my list. Did I go to Ecuador in 2022? I think I went to Colombia in 2022, and I was still looking at, I finally went to Mexico City and fell in love. It was just like, this is it. But went to Colombia 2023, went to Ecuador, have been hotel contracting this whole time. And in 2023, I was able to get my economic solvency. It took me about a year because I was a contractor. So sometimes you have to show 6 months of income. Most places want you to show 6 months. There are some places that require 12 months. I didn't want to show up someplace and only have 6 months and have them tell me no. So I wanted to make sure I at least had that, like, oh, well, here's my 7th or 8th month. But because as a hotel contractor, I'm on a contract basis. When a contract ends, if I didn't get another one right away, that threw me off and meant I had a month where I had no income. So I had to then start over again. So I had to start the process of economic solvency, of proving economic solvency a couple of times, because my hotel contracts didn't end up lining up and I would have a month with no income. So it took me about a year of trying to get my contracts to line up so that I had 6 months, I could show 6 months of income. That's why it took me a little bit longer. Other people, if you have steady income, you're not a contractor, you've got your 6 months, go to an embassy and show them, put it down now, show them now. The sooner the better for Mexico. The other thing you'll want to think about in terms of the embassy, each embassy is different. The embassy I went to was in Indianapolis. The financial solvency requirement was about 15% lower last year than it was for the rest of the country, right? Had I gone to Chicago or Philadelphia, New York, or one of the major consulates, it was at a higher number. So if you are stressed about that $4,427.27, like if your budget is, your income is $4,200 or something like that, $4,000, look at smaller embassies, look at Indianapolis, look at places, go into Facebook groups are great for this. Go into the Facebook groups, find out where people are going, and then find out where they're not going. Because if you have places where not a lot of people are going to, sometimes the economic solvency number is lower. The other thing to keep in mind about this whole situation is it is literally a case-by-case basis, right? You could very easily go to a consulate with 6 months at a lower income, and maybe the person that day doesn't care and will let you through. You could easily go to a consulate with 6 months at the correct income, and that person says, oh, we need 12. It is all based on what they want to do. You just got to live with it. So I got my temporary residency. Once you do that, once you get your temporary residency card put in your passport, you have, I believe, 6 months to go get the actual physical temporary residency card that you need. So I went a couple of months later, went to Mexico and to pick up my temporary residency card. It's going to cost you another 5,328 pesos to pick up that card. I didn't do the conversion for that. I just paid. You can pay it. You have to pay with a credit card. Don't get a money order. Don't bring cash. They won't accept it. You have to pay with a credit card. So I didn't, my credit card company does the exchange rate for me. I didn't even bother, but just know once you have proven your economic solvency to pay to get your temporary residency card, you're looking at another 5,300 pesos and some change, right? So once you've got all that done, you are set. I now have my 1-year temporary residency. In order to renew, all I have to do is go back right before the election. Thank you, universe. I'll go back right before the election and I will get, I think it renews for another 3 years. I'll get an extension, and then after that extension, I can do permanent residency, which is my goal to become a permanent resident of Mexico. So that was my process. Like I said, it took me a little bit longer because I struggled as a contractor, to get that money sorted and having it hit my bank, having enough of it hit my bank account every month on the months that I wasn't working or worked a little bit less. But once I went through the process, easy. Everything else was very, very simple. Getting that appointment was the hardest thing. The consulate in Indianapolis, which I highly recommend if you're in that part of the world, they had appointments. I literally was like, that's too soon. I can't come that soon. I'm not even in the area. She was like, do you want to be seen in 3 or 4 days? And I was like, I can't. How about 2 weeks? So I had zero problems at the consulate in Indianapolis, except for the fact that I almost showed up late. I drove from Chicago and didn't realize that there was a time change. So luckily they were very nice. They let me in. Everything worked out. So that's my journey of how I got my temporary residency. And if you are working on temporary residency, it is going to go up again next year. It goes up every year. Mexican minimum wage goes up every year. So every year it's going to be 300 times whatever the daily minimum wage is. That increases. I believe I listened to Rashida, and she said it functionally increased 43% based on the actual increase of the minimum wage, as well as the decrease in conversion. So the conversion is serious right now. We're losing, Americans are losing because we went over there and splashed out a bunch of money. We're now losing a bunch of money. The conversion rate, I don't actually know if those two things are connected, that we screwed up the conversion rate. I'll just blame us for it though, because Americans pretty much screw up everything. So the conversion rate is hurting us a little bit. The US dollar does not go nearly as far. 16 pesos, 97 cents to every US dollar, 98 cents to every US dollar, as opposed to 20, which is what it was in 2021, 2022. So your money does not go as far, but I still highly recommend Mexico. And if you're not sure if you want to live there, like I said, use that 180-day visa. It is, again, at the discretion of immigration. I would recommend, if you want that 180 days, when you go to immigration, buy your ticket out, right? So you can say to immigration, when they say, how long do you need to be here? You can say, oh, I have a flight that leaves 180 days from today. And hopefully they'll give you that 180 days. They are not required to. It is, again, all at the discretion of the immigration agent that you get once you land in Mexico. Maybe don't go to Mexico City right away. Maybe go to one of the smaller places and you'll have a better chance of getting that 180 days. I know Mexicans and the Mexican government is a little sick of Americans. We have gone over there and we've driven pricing up for a lot of people in terms of housing and food costs and that sort of thing. So we haven't been the best stewards, but hopefully those of us who are there now, those of us who are going over, can change that a little bit. All right, so that's my story for today. Today is day 2 of my 30-day challenge. Thank you for joining me. This was a longer video than I anticipated, but hopefully it had some good information. Please let me know if you have any questions in the comment section. Please like and subscribe my videos, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 3. Thanks so much, y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.